This is TWiT.
Have we talked enough about free speech, the platforms, all of that?
Of course not.
Telegram is taking down neo-Nazi channels. That's new, by the way.
This is another big problem, and I'm just giving the other side. You take these guys down and off. They're like bugs. They crawl back under the rocks. But there are plenty.
You can't find them.
You can't find them. There are plenty of places for them to go. Telegram's one, Discord, Matrix, Gab. They're 8chan. You know, when 4chan went away, they went to 8chan. I think there's places beyond 8chan. It's the internet. The nature.
16chan.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, the nature of the internet is it's whack-a-mole. You can't successfully block all of this. You could,
so that's why it's the wrong way to think. I think is that we've got to spend. We spend all of our time thinking there's somebody bad on the internet. I can't go to bed. When what we need instead is institutions and structures to emphasize and amplify the good.
Yeah.
And the bad is idiots are always going to be there. It's like I always say, Twitter's not the New York Times, it's Times Square. There's always an idiot on there was.
And just like Times Square, I will go to 110th Street and go around to avoid Twitter. I really have had enough. I'm off of it because it makes
you're missing so much.
No, I'm not. I'm missing the Spilkus,
well, I don't see any Spilkus. You're doing it wrong, man.
I totally get where he's coming from because I feel the same way about my Facebook experience from years ago.
Yeah,
I
don't miss Facebook.
Nothing out of it.
Yeah.
And ever since I left, I haven't thought twice about it. Yet I have a friend, a dear friend of mine who just recently retired, who made his business off of Facebook traffic. I mean,
I agree 100%.
So,
I agree,
hey,
100%.
Whatever works for you, you know.
I'm not saying these. I'm not disagreeing with anybody who says there's value in these platforms. I just don't want to be there.
Though. Ethan Zuckerman wrote something about what you're describing, Leo, about how driving, whether it's the Daily Stormer or whoever off platforms, they will find places to do what they're doing.
Yeah,
and they will be harder to find, and they will be harder to see and harder to track. But they'll still be doing all the same things.
So I guess what you're saying, Jeff, is the point is not to make them invisible. The point is to create a safer, better Twitter, a better Facebook. The
first known effort, watch out, here comes a Gutenberg moment, to censor the press came in 1470 from Niccolo Peretti, who was a grammarian, who was appalled by a translation of Pliny's work and wrote a letter, don't worry, I'm going to get there soon, wrote a letter to the Pope saying, you must stop this. You must appoint someone to censor the press. You must appoint someone to correct all the forms before they go to press because we just can't allow this. Right? Well, in a way, he wasn't asking for censorship. He was asking for an editor. And it took a while. It took a long time before we invented the institutions of the editor and the publishing house to find the best and establish quality and establish standards, right? It took a while, but we invented those institutions to create those standards. We enter a new world where now everybody can speak, and you know how much I celebrate that because we have Black Lives Matter and Living While Black and Me Too and so and Occupy Wall Street and movements that wouldn't have been heard before. But we also hear QAnon and idiocy. And right now what's happening is we're concentrating only on the bad stuff. And in doing so, we're amplifying the bad guys and ignoring all the good stuff. My difference with you, Leo, is primarily I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I follow 3,693 people. I honestly see no cesspool-y stuff. I get no sewer gas from my Twitter feed. It is helpful, informative, amusing, friendly. It is a good part of my life.
Well, all I can say is, folks, you're not doing your job. Would you please start messing with
thanks a lot.
Jeff's
thanks
feed?
Thanks a lot.
You're not doing your job.
I'll post some screenshots in Jeff's feed.
Jeff, I want to point out you didn't always feel that way. Remember when there was a guy called Professor Jeff Jarvis?
Yeah, and I hated him, and I blocked him. And yeah, there are bad people there, yes. But what did I do? I ignored him. And he's under a rock somewhere, and I don't give a damn.
My experience started out
pretty
shaky as well on Twitter, and I didn't quite think it mattered or had any kind of point, but it took a while to do a bit of curation and working on it, and now I love being there.
You guys talk like junkies.
Some people,
you're just like junkies. You're saying, "Yeah, man, you're gonna really miss it when you're gone, man. It's great." Yeah, fine.
I mean, so all you're going to be left with is
that's Mr. Jarvis saying that. You can take Twitter from me. I'm going to be all right.
I do not miss either Twitter or Facebook. I have a much better.
And I don't
life
miss
without
Newsweek
them.
in Time.
Yeah,
right. See, that's the world we had before. Let Time magazine tell you about the entire world. No, I'm really glad I'm rid of that.
I did want to mention though that taking Parler off of AWS is, I think, significantly different than removing someone from Twitter.
Discussion.
So
Matthew talked about that. So was it a line too far? Was it too infrastructural or not?
So I don't know, but I think it raises different questions because you're going.
This is very
further
similar
down into the stack.
The challenges that Matthew Prince at Cloudflare faced because he was protecting DDoS protection for the Daily Stormer.
Is that up the stack or down the stack?
And 8chan. And 8chan. I don't know. Is it up or down? I think it's down.
And Matthew was very much saying, well, we got to protect speech, and honestly, it's not for us to deplatform somebody. He did eventually, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's
it's worth reading what he wrote. It's worth reading what he wrote after the Daily Stormer, and he mentioned what they did with 8chan as well. And he said, I feel uncomfortable being in this position. I should not be in a position where I can do this, remove someone effectively from the internet. And yes, you can, as a number of people point out to me, you can run your own server on a Raspberry Pi in your mom's basement or whatever, and you will technically be on the internet. But it's qualitatively different to have something like AWS or Cloudflare remove you than it is for Twitter to remove you.
The Daily Stormer, we should mention, was a Nazi newspaper, a white supremacist.
I thought it was a weather thing.
And by the way, I think that's where Denise Howell's point comes in. I think Amazon, even if they weren't exposed by hosting Parler, because there was definitely illegal content on Parler. There's no question about that. We've seen some of it. I mean, people saying you should hang
Amazon's
the vice president
in the court there's some bad stuff there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So whether they were using it as a pretext for doing something they wanted, or their lawyers said, you really need to do this because you're exposed, is a minor difference. But
remember when they took down WikiLeaks as well, because they were effectively threatened by Congress,
right?
And which caused a huge storm at the time, right?
Yeah, is that good? I mean,
I was not too happy about that
when it's someone we don't like. But it
is the best thing. The best way to handle this a case by case. Is it impossible to make a policy and say, well, this should
that's what they hate. They hate that because they want a rule they can plug into an algorithm or plug into a rule set that says, see, we did this. And so my argument to them is you're thinking at a statutory level. You should be thinking at a constitutional level on a level of principles. And then, yes, it's case by case, but you have something to call upon. All they have to call upon now at Facebook is the statute of the breast. Female breast with nipple not allowed unless baby or surgery or statue. Right. And they're at that level rather than
they want something algorithmic. Yeah. And it's not algorithmic.
No,
well,
it's
and
not.
I'd like
It's
to know
judgment.
why.
They hate judgment.
Yeah.
Why was what Trump said at the rally, in which he didn't mention violence at all, why was that different compared to when he said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts?
The shoots. Yep.
Yeah, that was advocating violence pretty clearly.
Yeah.
It was,
but it's also timing. It's you look at the. I think one thing we forget about is when people, well, Twitter should be braver. Well, Donald Trump had a corrupt Department of Justice, jail, the IRS, a mob, all behind him, and it wasn't until the end of his reign that I think that they had the courage, frankly, to do this. And we can mock them for that. But hell, there were Republican members in Congress who wouldn't vote the other way because they were afraid for the physical safety of their families.
I think we should mock them a little bit because it's fine to, I think it was Alexandra Petri or Petri Dishes on Twitter who wrote, I'm resigning from the Death Star because I can't put up with this anymore a week before it blows up.
Yeah, but it's a little easy for us to say, is all I'm saying.
It's super easy.
Mike Masnick had a great post last Friday on his blog Tech Dirt. Not easy, not unreasonable, but not censorship, the decision to ban Trump from Twitter. And in which he's basically saying it is ad hoc. It isn't, there aren't algorithms. And that at each point, the decision has to be made. To those who think that Twitter should have done this earlier, he writes, or that it would have made a difference, recognize that your concern is not so much with Twitter, but with Trump himself. Remember that while Trump might not be able to send a tweet right now, he still literally has the power to launch nuclear missiles at Twitter's headquarters. I don't think he does. I think he can only target enemy installations, but I might be wrong. Trump is obviously too toxic for Twitter, but he's also too toxic for the White House. The real complaint shouldn't be about Twitter or Facebook acting too late, but about Congress failing to do their job and removing the madman from power. And by the way, as we speak, Congress has voted to impeach.
Pelosi is speaking right now.
The second time.